do some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you. Killer, Mommy. Killer.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
This is my boomstick. Here's Johnny.
I have to return some videotapes.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Hello and welcome to All Things Horror. My name is Ben and I'm joined here with Matt. If you are unfamiliar with this show, each week we choose a movie to break down and review. We give our honest opinions and rate it from 1 to 10. This week we are going to be talking about The Lost Boys from 1987. But before we do, let's take a quick look at the trailer.
You'll never grow old, Michael. And you'll never die.
Be one of us.
Notice anything unusual about Santa Carla yet?
It's a pretty cool place. If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
Dad.
You know where Hudson's Bluff is? I can't beat your bike. You just have to try and keep up. How far are you willing to go, Michael? Guess first. How are those maggots?
Drink some of this, Michael.
Don't. It's blood.
Michael.
Now you know what we are. Now you know what you are.
Help me! Stay back! Stay back! Help me! My own brother, a vampire. You wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
You don't want to miss this.
You smell like garlic.
Alright then, we have got The Lost Boys from 1987. Lucy, along with her two sons, Michael and Sam, moved to a small town in California. Soon, the two boys are stuck in the mysterious and dangerous world of bikers, vampires, and vampire hunters. This is directed by Joel Schumacher. Is that how you pronounce it, Matt? Is it Schumacher?
Yeah, Schumacher.
Yeah, Schumacher. Main cast, we have got Jason Patric, who is Michael, and Kiefer Sutherland, who plays David, as well as Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, Dianne Wiest, and Alex Winter, as well as more, but those are the main cast. Total runtime of 98 minutes, about, an hour and 37. Decent scores on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got an audience rating of 85%, critics of 76, so yeah, it's good. And the budget was 8.5 million and made 32.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's good. So yeah, what do you think about this movie, Matt?
So I love it. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. It's definitely for me my entry level horror, like horror comedy. I probably watched it before I was really into horror. The first time, and then the last time I watched it was about 17 years ago. As I remember watching it with, I was in a house share at the time, and love it. it's one of those. I haven't revisited it. I've kind of so it was really good to watch it completely fresh. It had been so long since I saw it, so yeah, it was a really nice revisit. There was no nasty surprises. It wasn't like, oh, it hasn't aged well. It really has. It's aged. It hasn't aged. It's you know, obviously, you know, from certain things, it's got a very 80s aesthetic, but it's great. Yeah, it's lovely. What's your history with the Lost Boys?
Yeah, no, I love the Lost Boys. It's been with me for quite a long time. I was probably around 16, 17 when I first watched it, and yeah, around that time I was very much into the rock and roll punk kind of look, you know, leather jackets and torn jeans, ripped t-shirts, you know, especially Marco, you know, the guy who what's he, Bill from Bill and Ted?
Oh yeah, Alex Winter, yeah.
I idolised him. I loved the way he looked in this film with his jacket and his boots and everything. Yeah, I used to cut my t-shirts at the middles.
Oh yeah, he did that, didn't he? It's funny because he's kind of got that look a little bit in Bill and Ted as well, with a t-shirt quite high.
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably just an Alex Winter thing. It's really funny you say that about his look in this, because we did a meet and greet with him a couple of years ago, and I was dressed in full Bill and Ted gear, and it was like a full Lost Boys themed event. So me and my friend were both dressed in Wild Stallions, Bill and Ted.
Oh wow!
And he was so lovely, but a little confused that we were there in this horror event. But yeah, he's just a tiny fella. That's what really stuck out to me. But yeah, really friendly, really nice. But yeah, I hadn't thought about the t-shirt thing until you said it. Really, that's like yeah, quite a unique way of dressing.
Yeah,
but you'd have to have permed your hair to get like a sort of curly thing on top. That's quite a commitment.
Yeah. Would you make of the rest of the cast? You know, Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Isn't it a really good cast in terms of like there's little touch points to other horror, but there's also like there's so much. I'm probably coming into it more with like trivia, but there's like people who have come on to be quite part of the cultural fabric of particularly the 80s, even before. But like you've got the two Coreys before they were, or when they were just forming, being that sort of the two Coreys itself kind of thing, and going off and doing sort of lesser quality films together. You've got Dianne Wiest, who won 2 Oscars for two. I'm not a massive fan of Bullets Over Broadway, but she was really good in Hannah and Her Sisters, the Woody Allen films. Like say, Alex Winter is in there. Herrmann. I can't think of a first name. Is it Ed Herrmann? He's not Ed Herrmann. That's a UFC guy. Somebody Herrmann, and I should know this because it's the guy from. It's Richard Gilmore from the Gilmore Girls, my wife's favourite TV show, who plays Max. He plays Max. Yeah, the reason being I wrote Richard Gilmore in capital letters because, yeah, I've had to suffer through many episodes. Please, in the comments below, if you are fans of the Gilmore Girls, I apologise. We'll apologise to you directly, but yeah, I've had to suffer through a lot of episodes of Gilmore Girls over the years. So, like, to see him as, like, a younger man is quite strange. Jason Patric doesn't get mentioned a lot, really, does he, with the film, but is actually really good.
I don't really know much of his other work.
Well, he was in Speed 2. He took over from Keanu Reeves. He's like kind of like backup lead guy. But I would recommend Narc. He did a film called Narc, which is an excellent film. But the interesting thing, this is probably more trivia about him. His dad being Father Karras from The Exorcist.
Right.
Jason
okay.
Miller. Yeah, Jason Miller. So I just think that's really interesting. Also, Jason Patric, more famous for running off with Julia Roberts when she split up from Kiefer Sutherland, who was his best friend. This was a big thing at the time. I remember it being in the back when you got your news from like glossy magazines with your newspapers, and it was like she's run off to Ireland with his best friend, like when she was the absolute top movie star in the world, I guess, at the time.
Oh wow.
So yeah, to see them two now fighting on screen, knowing that is interesting. Just obviously they didn't know that was going to happen. But I bet he wishes he got a few extra punches in there, Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
Dianne Wiest, is amazing.
Yeah, I did recognise her, but I couldn't picture where from, and then I realised that she was the mum in Edward Scissorhands.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, Brad Pitt. She's Brad Pitt's favourite actress as well. This is a weird thing that I found out. Yeah, I don't know what that says, but I don't know what that tells you. But I think she's really good. Yeah, she brings a lot more to it. And we'll get into it as we go through it. She brings a lot more to it than your standard sort of mum role. She's really good, I think. Yeah.
I mean, a film that stands out to me that both Kiefer Sutherland and Corey Feldman were in was Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine would be around about the same time.
Yeah, it might have been maybe a
80s.
year or so before, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of years, yeah.
Kiefer tends to play that kind of role in most of his films, doesn't he? Like kind of the bad guy.
Yeah, the bully. I suppose as a teenager, like a bullying kind of character.
Tough guy.
Yeah, he's. I'm not like I say, I didn't follow 24 or any of the other things. Like when I see him in things, I like him. He's good, but this would be his iconic role, wouldn't it? This would be if someone was putting a picture of him or typed him into Google. I'm sure it'd be like a picture of him as David that would be the one that comes up.
Yeah.
And it was Edward Herrmann, by the way. I was right, Edward Herrmann.
Kiefer also played kind of the bad, kind of tough guy in a film called A Time to Kill that Joel Schumacher also directed.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a good film.
Yeah, I've not seen. Is that that's the guy? The lawyer fella, John Grisham. It just sounds like a John Grisham title because he wrote so many books based on him being a lawyer, and also I think he may have even wrote ER as well, which is a bit strange. Yeah, so it has been. He's been in a lot more like. I don't think he didn't go on to become like a sort of leading man, did he? But neither did Jason Patric really. But both of them have been in some films of debatable sort of quality up and down. Some really good ones and some terrible ones.
What do you make of Joel Schumacher as a director? His films are a bit all over the place. He's done a couple of Batman movies and Phone Booth.
I think he can go full on campy, bright, over the top, and then he can do really pared down, serious, and there's room for both of those sorts of films. But like, I think that makes him really fascinating because you can't. I mean, he's always passed away now, but like, often there's lots of a real range of different. Like some really grimy ones, like 8mm, which I wasn't necessarily a fan of. But he's done, like you say, he's done this. He's done Lost Boys. He's done so many. It's really hard to kind of you can't pigeonhole him as a director. Like Tigerland, that's an incredible film that he did. That's such a good film with Colin Farrell, Matthew Davis, and then move on from that, and you're like, so we've got Batman and Robin, which objectively the worst of this worst Batman film that there's been, not necessarily because of the campiness of it and things like that, because it's just not very interesting. It's not very engaging. It's not very good.
It's not great. No.
It's not. If it was just like silly 1960s Adam West style campy Batman, then I'd be all for it because I love that. I was brought up watching that, but yeah, it just didn't work. But
he had to follow on from Tim Burton as well, and I think he set the standard quite high.
Yeah, and it's like he didn't go full in with that kind of thing because like Batman Forever is kind of halfway between Batman Returns and Batman and Robin, and then Batman and Robin is just like insanity. It just doesn't work. But yeah, he's done. He has lots of interesting ideas. He's quite brave with his choices. But like I say, some of the ones that are probably his better ones maybe haven't been as successful. Like I say, Tigerland is just a film I revisit quite a lot. I think it's really, really good.
Have you seen anything else from this franchise? Because I know they've done 2 more. I don't think they're highly rated. They've done Lost Boys: The Tribe in 2008 and Lost Boys: The First in 2010.
I did try. My friend had them both when we were at university, and I think we were in university, or maybe after that, or maybe even tried to give them to me because he didn't like them so much. And I couldn't get through them. I think I watched the outtakes because one of them, Jameson Newlander, was supposed to be in it, and he was cut out, which I don't understand the reason why. And I just watched the outtakes with him in it because I was like, I want to see the Frog Brothers. I don't want to see the Frog Brother. So I watched that. I watched a little bit of the second one, and then I probably watched even less of the third one. So no, not for me.
I think Corey Feldman, he's been in all of them, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think sadly Corey Haim was going to have a bigger role in the second one, but he wasn't up to it with his sort of sobriety, and I think he ended up just being a cameo. But I think initially the idea was for him to have a bigger role in it. Because I remember this because I feel like I've watched more of it than I have, because I used to watch the Two Coreys TV show, and that was filmed at the same time as they were getting the second one off the ground. But obviously you knew what they were going, you were watching it, and you know that he was struggling with his addiction problems, or I guess both of them were to a certain degree, but more Corey Haim. I think Corey Feldman had beaten his demons at that point. So I don't really have any interest in watching either of them. Do you? Or
no, I don't think I will. I don't really like following on films if I think it's gonna potentially ruin the original for me.
Straight to video as well, or straight to DVD.
I'd rather just leave it.
Yeah.
Although a little bit of trivia, obviously I haven't seen it, but The Tribe, that one, apparently the main vampire in that film is Kiefer Sutherland's half brother.
Oh yeah, is it Angus? So, yeah, Angus Sutherland. Yeah.
So you love your Hammer horrors, don't you? Mm-hmm. I would imagine for you probably Christopher Lee is the top tier vampire in your. Am I right?
He would be. Yeah, he would be the best Dracula, I think. Obviously, he did it for so long. Some of them is just kind of there, and then. But some of the sort of earlier ones, actually, I was just about to say he's not in a couple of the last. He's certainly not in the last real Hammer horror, the Golden Vampires one, the sort of the Kung Fu one I was telling you about the other day. He doesn't play. He isn't Dracula in that one. But yeah, I like him. So does he pop up on the TV or something in this, or is he? What's his connection with this? Have I completely missed that?
No, there's no connection.
Oh, right.
I'm just thinking that's kind of like the OG vampire film that you'd think about. Obviously, there's been so many vampire films over the years, like Fright Night, Dusk Till Dawn, Nosferatu, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Nosferatu would be my favourite, I would say.
Yeah, so many vampire films. But I feel like this one stands out the most because it kind of steps away from the traditional vampire style.
Well, even then, because I got baffled then. I was thinking, why are we talking about vampire people? Now, obviously, it's a comedy vampire comedy with a small C. Vampire film, isn't it? Yeah, and
that was going to be another question I asked. Is this actually classed as a comedy horror?
I've seen it described as that. I wouldn't see it as that, but there are some incredibly funny lines in it.
I did find myself laughing quite a lot.
Me too. I was surprised how funny it was. Like particularly some of Corey Haim's lines.
Yeah,
he was brilliant in it. The way he delivered them. Also, Corey Feldman as well. Is hilarious in this. They're both the comedy element, really. Those two.
Yeah, it's funny because Corey Haim is kind of intentionally trying to be funny. Like things that he says, he kind of smirks at some of the stuff he's saying. But most of the stuff that Corey Feldman is in, you're kind of laughing at him rather than he's saying.
I think at this point in his career, he's nailed. I know he's kind of probably getting into the point where he might be exposed to things that that he can't handle in terms of like drugs and alcohol and what have you. But in terms of his acting, like Stand By Me and in this, I think it's such a clever performance, isn't it? Because he puts on the deep action hero voice to mask his fear, and like he's a kid. He's very aware he's a kid. Obviously, similar to, I was going to say sort of similar to, he has a bit of range. He's very different in Stand By Me than he is to this, Friday the 13th. Certainly Friday the 13th Part 4. I think that's the only one he's in, isn't it? Because he gets recast, doesn't he?
Part 4 he is, yeah.
Yeah. Because he's really good in that, again, as, you know, how they imagine things going with that. He's hilarious in this, though. He plays it so funny. There's sort of the deep, you know...
We are the vampire killers.
Yeah, he's like... It's really funny that him and his brother, they take it so seriously, but there's a real comedy value to it because they're very aware that they're just little kids, and it's like playing, you know, they're like playing. His delivery, his line delivery is just out of this world. So yeah, big up Corey Feldman for this film.
I watched this film with my wife, and she found it quite hilarious with Corey Feldman, with the fact that the Frog Brothers are so pretending to be so tough because they're vampire killers and all that, and they know all this stuff, you know, about vampires, but when it actually comes to them fronting the vampires, they literally scream and are really scared.
Yeah, they're just little boys, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're just Lost Boys. Yeah, they're just Lost Boys. I was thinking about this. The actual Lost Boys title, it covers so many of the characters, not just David's group.
Yeah.
Maybe mention a bit of that later, but yeah.
All right. Unless you got anything more, should we jump into the spoilers?
Yeah.
And go through the plot?
Sure.
Cool.
Spoiler warning.
Following the divorce of their parents, Michael and Sam, along with their mother Lucy, moved to Santa Carla in California to live with their grandfather. Known as the murder capital of the world, Santa Carla boasts a local boardwalk where a number of young people hang out. Most notable is a group of young men with their leader named David. What would you make of this intro to the movie? You get a nice little montage of Santa Carla.
Yeah, it's I really like, I don't know if you see it now or a bit later, the big board with the multicolour thing, and I've got a picture of myself in front of one of those, which is cool. But yeah, it's funny because Santa Cruz, the actual place where it's sort of based on, was the murder capital of the world at one point. They had three serial killers all active at the same time. So
that's right,
obviously they were just seeing people off left, right, and centre. So it's kind of, I always think of that when I see whenever I see it, and I think I was like, well, actually, you're not wrong.
Wow, so it actually was the murder capital of the world.
Yeah. Huh. So that's for a brief period of time, obviously. But yeah, it's not nobody be living there, would they, if they continued at that rate?
You get to see David and the rest of the gang quite, early on, where they get kicked off in the boardwalk by the security guy.
Yeah.
It's
like a synthy start, all builds to a crescendo, doesn't it? And then they're at the dreamlike fairground.
I put in my notes, it's kind of hard to look tough and menacing when you're on a merry-go-round.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, people are strange though. So,
yeah. Oh man, I love that song. I wish they'd used the Doors though, rather than, because this was done by Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah, I do like Echo and the Bunnymen. They've done some good songs, but yeah, I like to say it's funny as well because there is a Jim Morrison poster later on, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a real mixture though of the old and what was at the time new. So I do like that. Like I said, we've got sort of dilapidated old buildings and songs from, say, 70s played by people in the 80s, or, got synthy modern stuff, but quite a lot of the stuff's quite old. So yeah, it works really well. I don't hate it, but I know what you mean. It's sometimes nice to hear the original song. Yeah.
What do you think of their overall look, like the way they're dressed, like very 80s nostalgia?
Yeah, again, I think there's a bit of a mixture of the old and the new, isn't there? They've got, like, some of these could definitely pass as, like, particularly David, like an old, without the blonde hair, he'd probably have to have it jet black, but like of an old school vampire. And then there's like real 80s, slightly gothic, maybe tied in with rock, like sort of hair metal, real combination. They've gone all out with the design. It's really creative.
One thing I did think about was obviously we know they're vampires, and he even says later on in the film that, you know, they never grow old. And it made me think, I was like, well, how old are they? Because if they never grow old, when did they become vampires? And how long have they been vampires for? Because if they've been vampires for years or centuries, maybe they're trying to keep up with the latest styles and trends. You know, they could be
a bit like in Twilight, where they have to like we've been around for about 400 years, and you know, now I'm wearing my Dockers and you know, whatever it is. Like, yeah, I've got to kind of look up to date. Oh yeah, that's a really good point. I always think about. I think the thing about this as well that maybe makes people not think about the way they look that much in terms of like if they've been around for hundreds of years, why are they, you know, still not dressed that way, or how have they kept up with fashion? Is that this is such a timeless look, like it's a real timeless mix of old and new. Yeah. So it doesn't. I suppose that kind of makes sense. Yeah, they might be like, "Oh, I really liked wearing that in 1932. I'll keep that one particular thing, but then I'll wear some lace gloves or whatever because Madonna wears them." Yeah.
So you get them go to their grandpa's house, and straight off the bat, Corey Haim is saying a lot of funny stuff, especially when he's talking about the TV, there not being a TV anywhere. And the grandpa was saying about having a TV guide. And he was like, "Oh, so you got a TV?" And he goes, "No, I just have the TV guide. If you got a TV guide, you don't need a TV."
It's amazing. He's totally baffled by his grandpa, isn't he? Like, but like a lot of his references are like a kid who's brought up in front of 80s TV. Like, I was Googling The Flying Nun later on as well, because he mentions The Flying Nun. It's like mid-80s Sally Field TV show where, like, a literal flying nun solves people's problems. So, like, nearly every reference he makes is, like, a movie reference or a TV reference.
Yeah.
He's got, like, he dresses like a cool 80s character would dress on a TV show as well. Like, obviously, he's very out of step with the people where he's moved to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was just thinking about that as you were saying it. You know, we were talking about the vampires, how they're dressed. Corey Haim is like the other side of the spectrum for that. He's wearing like bright coloured shirts, big colours, you know.
Yeah, when we say timeless, maybe all the other characters, exception of him. Possibly Max dresses like a fully grown adult dressed like the way Max dresses now. Would seem to be like a bit of a hipster kind of dressing very 80s. It's funny because Max and the mother both have the same type of glasses with the sort of clear frames, and then they're not like kind of, if you wore them now nobody'd say anything. They look pretty fashionable now.
Yeah.
It's all about the glasses.
When the Emersons go out to the boardwalk for the first time, Lucy finds a video store run by a man named Max. They have a pleasant conversation, and Lucy is soon hired by him. Sam finds a comic shop near the boardwalk, overseen by the Frog Brothers, Edgar and Alan. The two give Sam a comic about vampires, which Sam reluctantly takes. Meanwhile, Michael becomes enthralled by a mysterious, beautiful star, who happens to be the girlfriend of David. David and his gang take Michael to their hideout, which is...
She's the star of David.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
Feldman,
The Star of David, yeah.
Sorry, it just popped into my head.
Yeah. So they go to their hideout, which is remnants of an old hotel that collapsed during an earthquake. While there, Michael inadvertently drinks David's blood, thinking it's wine.
Oops.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we've gone through so much in that first period of the film. You've got oiled up Tim Capello,
yes,
amazing guy. You've got Jamie Gertz star, seeing her. You've got Max introduced. You've got all the Lost Boys have managed to brood, hang around, just little teenagery, little back chat to everybody. All of this has happened so quick. A video store, a comic book shop.
Yeah, we've already pretty much met everyone and know what everyone's about within 10, 15
Frog
minutes.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Frog Brothers are there. They're like... And another thing I was thinking, he's got the headband when you see him and he does the deep voice. I'm wondering if this is kind of... He's referencing Rambo, whether he's trying to be like a kid version of Rambo.
Yeah.
It's like, it would kind of make sense. But yeah, like...
Yeah, because he does have that like kind of like military look as well, doesn't he? Very like dark green, army green.
I just remember when I was a kid and Rambo and Commando and all those were dead popular. You'd go to like a holiday camp for holiday, and you'd go to the little shop and you'd buy a fake gun, a fake combat knife, a red headband, and then you'd just charge around the club of the holiday camp. Like, every 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old would be doing that. So, like, it would make sense. I was probably doing the same thing as him as when I was in 1987. It says I wasn't fighting real vampires.
Yeah. You also get this really cool kill scene where you obviously see them flying over and they rip the whole roof off of the car whilst the couple are in there. I think is that the same couple that were on the merry-go-round right at the very beginning?
Probably.
Yeah,
probably. I think so.
Sat in the back seat, and then all of a sudden the actual roof gets torn off of the car and drug up into the sky.
The feasting that they do in this part and then later on are probably the most gory parts, and well, maybe the bath part later on, but like I'd forgotten that there was actually any gore in this. If that makes sense.
I was thinking that after I finished the film and the credits came on, I was thinking, for a vampire film, you don't actually get to see that many kind of vampire kills, like proper vampire kills.
When they do it, they're quite wet though, and they're quite like proper, like the feasting is the right word, isn't it? They are really feasting on their victims. It's like they're nomming.
Yeah.
They are nomming on their victims, but like there isn't a lot of it, so maybe it's just having the right amount, I guess, to still be accessible to their audience. If you're thinking this is going to be, if he had in his mind when he was making it, this is going to be a teen horror, you don't want like literally peeling skin off and that kind of stuff. Not too much anyway.
What did you make of the hideout?
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? That is like, for me, the actual Lost Boys, Peter Pan, old ship kind of hangout. It's obviously they've got their new stuff, but it's got their old stuff, and it's all fallen in. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
you don't
Jim
see
Morrison
things
on
like
the
that.
wall.
Yeah, you don't see things like that anymore, do you?
No.
Like, because is this after they've... Michael's there with them, isn't he, at the first time they go?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So like they've done the sort of teen movie bike race, James Dean kind of thing, which I think again that places it into real classic teen movie mode. Like I hadn't thought about that when I saw it originally, but that kind of idea of racing them there, the sort of the close-ups on their faces and their racing and stars on the back of the bike, and then when they get there, it feels very much Peter Pan. I think that. What do you think of that set? Or the Goonies, I guess.
Yeah, it was very much Goonies actually. That did come to mind. This was the first time. I must not have been listening. I've seen this loads of times, but this was the first time that I actually realised it was a hotel. I thought it was just a cave. I didn't realise it was an actual collapsed hotel during an earthquake.
Right. No, I don't think I'd spotted that really either, or certainly it wasn't something that stuck in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think David was explaining it as they just got into the cave very briefly. But this whole scene, especially the bit where David offers Michael food. Like he offers him rice, which is maggots, and then noodles, which is worms.
Yeah, that is again probably an iconic moment. It must be because, like I say, I've got the person that I met who offered me the same thing in the little Chinese meal thing, dressed as David at a con, and he was holding it, and he was like, "Do you want some rice?" And I looked in it, and I was like, "Oh, maggots," or it might have been worms or something like that. But yeah, it was. That's a memorable part, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's one of the scenes that you kind of take away from the movie.
Yeah, definitely. It's like it's also, there's a lot of peer pressure in that scene that's believable for a teen audience.
Yeah,
they're kind of like laughing at him and making him feel like out of the group, and then chanting his name later on and getting him into the group. It's like very much like there's a lot of that, isn't there?
How old is Michael supposed to be in this film?
I don't know, but he looks about 30.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, then I think Jason Patric has always, like, he doesn't look particularly old now, and he didn't look particularly young then.
No.
He's just got that sort of those genes where he just looks a certain age forever, I guess. Your Frog Brothers and Sam are more likely to be close to the age they're playing.
Yeah. And then you get...
also they're about half the size.
Yeah. Then you get the other kind of iconic scene that you take away from this movie is when they go to the train bridge and they dangle themselves off and fall off one by one.
The lighting is really good in this. In all of the scenes where they're near the motorbikes or the lightings from the train, it's like little sudden spotlights of fire or train lights or motorbikes. And they managed to avoid, I suppose this is more to do with cinematography, they managed to avoid what so many modern films and films certainly in the early 2000s did, which was they're so dark you can't see what's going on. Like the lighting is perfectly done, considered when they're putting the shots together. It makes perfect sense, and it also makes it feel really iconic when you see like their faces in the train light or in the motorbike light or the fire. It makes it feel a bit more epic. It's really good. But then that's the cinematographer who did Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, so he knows how to do epic. He knows how to make things the way that, stand out, feel like kind of timeless.
Yeah, there's loads of scenes throughout this movie scattered in where the cinematography really stands out, like the flying scenes where you get like an aerial shot and it's kind of flying over you. Yeah, and
even the funfair stuff.
Yeah.
Funfair stuff's pretty cool. Creepy funfairs. Yeah, like Terrifier 2.
Also, the one. I'm getting a bit ahead now, but when they're the first scene where they feast and they're in the tree or around the tree, and you don't know, you haven't seen David's face yet before he's changed. You see him as a normal David, and then his face goes like through the shadow, and you see this light, and it takes up the whole screen, and it's the first vampire makeup of his face that you see in the movie. And then
it's quite biblical. I think that's quite a biblical scene. The tree and everything, like it's almost like Tree of Life. That's really I literally didn't have that written down, but I just thought of it. It's so really interesting. I think there's loads of those kind of subtle, created on the page but perfectly realised by the director, because the writers haven't really wrote anything else, just kind of done this. You can kind of see that they took their time over it and really thought about all the different references to classic horror and religion and sexuality and it's all in there. And then you've got the perfect director, somebody who's willing to kind of get immersed in that and put it on the screen. And he's throwing his own little Easter eggs in there, isn't he? Like, I'm sure it's Joel Schumacher who's putting like posters of Rob Lowe and Molly Ringwald and people like that. People, maybe some of the people he's worked with before on the walls, and like playing with sexuality as well. Like the poster of Molly Ringwald's quite small, but the poster of Rob Lowe in Sam's room is massive.
Huge,
like, there's not many teenage boys at that age who would have a massive poster of Rob Lowe in there, unless they were gay. And like, obviously Joel Schumacher is, and he's like just playing with the audience a little bit, I think, sometimes with things like that, which is fun. It's quite like, because the vampire thing is sensual anyway, isn't it? It's like the drinking of the blood was actually quite sensual that they were all doing, the music, and you know, we've got Cry Little Sister playing at the same time, and it's like that's all quite sensual and sexual. I'm just going to keep saying sensual, but yeah. But yeah, what did you think about it this time? Did you notice that kind of sexual element of it? I said it like that.
Yeah, I didn't, but my wife did, and she pointed it out. And once she pointed it out, it then stuck with me, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Actually, I am noticing," because she noticed the poster of Rob Lowe, and straight away she was like, she was saying, "Oh, is what's his name? Sam." He was like, "Oh, is Sam supposed to be gay?" And I was like, I don't know, I don't think so. And then now you've said that Joel Schumacher is gay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that like he likes putting these little sort of like just playing with sexuality in little clues and things like that. Certainly in this film, I think of a few others, but certainly like even in Batman and Robin, there's definitely some homoerotic stuff going on in there, and it's like it's. I think he's just having fun, and like I think that's great, because how many times do we have to sit through, you know, sort of a straight director just putting something in that he thinks is fun, or just being salacious, or you know, just because they like the way it looks. So why not? Why not do it? He puts so much in there, but he clearly has such a great understanding of horror and the different things that are dripped in there, and I think a lot of that comes off the page. That's got to be written as well, but it's just marrying together the director and the writer, isn't it?
One thing I didn't know, one thing I didn't get, when they're on the bridge and they all drop off, obviously the vampires, but it kind of fades away and Michael ends back in bed. It's not kind of explained what happens then. He kind of falls off the bridge and then just wakes up in his bed. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe... I don't know if it's something we need to see, I guess. I suppose we need to see that a bit like, you know, in Peter Pan, where they sprinkle the fairy dust and fall asleep and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just so we can question, was it real? Or whether he can question, was it real? So I suppose that's the reason they do it. Yeah. Just so he can question it, because he could quite easily just go, well, that's, you know, it's nothing. You know, it's like it's just a bad dream. It was just something stupid. A mad dream I had.
Yeah. So Michael begins to undergo his transformation. You know, his eyes become sensitive to sunlight, the smell of food revolts him, and his reflection becomes partly transparent. He develops a craving for blood, and he attempts to attack Sam whilst he's in the bath, but he's stopped by Sam's dog, Nanook.
Yeah, awesome. It's awesome that he's doing his proper Macaulay Culkin Home Alone. Like he's doing that. He's really it's like a proto Macaulay Culkin.
I've got that written down in my notes for later on, where it's very much Home Alone when they're kind of like preparing for the vampires to come and get them later on.
I hadn't thought of that. No, so it's two Home Alone references. He says to him, "Go take your bath." Like he makes him into such a little boy. Go take your bath. And
he's having such a good time in the bath as well.
he is. He's just literally like singing along, and Nanook's just an amazing like good boy who protects him. It's like he's got a lot of like screen presence like in that scene. He's not to be underrated though. Like both of them, maybe both of the Coreys kind of get forgotten that actually at one point they were both really good actors, like really good child actors before like outside people and influences and things that have happened, like trauma, I guess, messed them up. Sadly, they were both really good, and he's really good in this scene. Even when he says to him before, is it before he has to lose bath? He says to him, "Inquiring minds want to know, are you freebasing?" Like, I just think that's really funny. Inquiring minds. The way he says that line is out of this world. It's so funny. So yeah, good old Nanook. The dog knows.
Oh,
Dogs know. The best judge of character. They are.
So Sam realises his brother is a vampire, and in a panic he calls their mum, and she's having dinner with Max at the time. But Michael convinces him that he's not yet a full vampire and he needs his help. Sam realises that if Michael is not yet killed, he's a half vampire and his condition is reversible upon the head vampire's death.
I would love it to think that partly she's just like, God, this is what they're like. They're always screaming and shouting at each other, and like just like it's not even a thing. It's just like, oh God, here they go again.
Yeah.
I just love it. It calls it a shit-sucking vampire.
Yeah.
Shit-sucking vampire.
Shit-sucking vampire. You wait till Mum finds out about this, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like, because it's like that. They really do play well off the fact that they're brothers. There is love there, but there is also like, there's one person who can drive you mad. It's your brother. I don't have a brother, but I can imagine that is exactly that kind of two teenagers with an age gap, how they would be interacting anyway, running around the house, smashing each other, calling each other names.
Oh, yeah. Me and my brother was like that. He's 6 years older than me.
There you go. You were the Sam.
I was Sam. Yeah. Did you notice when Michael's drinking some milk in the kitchen, it's got that kid on the carton?
Yeah.
What's his
Laddie.
name?
I called him Chappie. I called him Chappie before. I'm sure it's some dog food brand from the 80s. Laddie, Chappie, Whiskers. But yeah, it was. I think you can buy those at conventions. I think people make those.
Oh really? Oh okay.
Yeah. It's it knows it's a movie, doesn't it, when it puts in these little things. And even like we're laughing so much talking about it. It's like it's not a comedy, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. That's why we don't laugh at The Lost Boys watching it back from the 80s. We don't laugh at it and go, oh, it's so pathetic. Like, you could definitely watch, not beating up Twilight, but you could watch Twilight now and laugh at it because it takes itself so seriously.
Yeah.
Whereas this one really, really doesn't. Like, are we up to the part where he rings up the Frog Brothers?
I think so.
Where he's like, he goes through the list of things, and he's like, he's always had bad breath.
Yeah.
It's like, I was thinking like, Corey Feldman's like a mini Van Helsing in this moment where he's going through the things with him. Like, it just really makes me laugh. I mean, Michael floating past the window.
I don't really know much about vampires. You probably know more than I do. But is it a thing in vampire lore that you can be a half vampire by drinking blood?
It's not something. I'm sure it's in something else. I'm sure they've got it from somewhere. But I would say when I even going back to the old ones like the 30s and stuff, I can't remember that being a thing. But I'm open to being corrected. I'm not like a vampire expert, but it's not something. Usually in your Hammer horror, you get bit, you're a vampire. End of. They might have a nice little drink out of a goblet later on once they become a vampire. But yeah,
it's little things like this where I feel it kind of steps away from the normal traditional vampires and they kind of make their own rules a little bit.
Yeah, it's very inventive, isn't it? It's like we were saying last week with Host. What makes a really good horror film is where they do some of the things that we're used to, but do it in such a different way that makes it completely unique. You couldn't really compare The Lost Boys to anything else.
Yeah. So, after these events, Michael returns to David's hideout, where he confronts Star. She admits that the bottle he drank from did contain David's blood, and his suspicions are true. The next day, Sam accompanies his mum to Max's place to drop off some wine. However, they are both terrified when Max's dog, Fawn, attempts to attack Lucy. Feeling the attack seems similar to something in a comic he was reading, Sam tells the Frog Brothers. After the way Fawn acted and not having seen Max in the daylight, Sam is convinced that Max is the head vampire.
Stick with your original thoughts. Yeah, go with what you think. Go with what you think is correct. This is where I don't think we're up to the part where he wants to sleep in the room with his mum. And that's like a little moment for me. That's like a nice little moment. There's a couple of moments with the mum like that where it's a real genuine relationship that's kind of very subtly done that you wouldn't get in a lot of films. Like even the way when Michael's talking to her and she asks him if they're like still friends later on. That's heartbreaking. That's really she's incredible. They're both really good in that. But Dianne Wiest just makes those two little moments really heartbreaking, which is kind of out of place in the film, but builds the film, makes the film more substantial, makes you care about the characters more. She's not just mum.
Yeah, she's hard not to like as well. She's a very sweet, soft-spoken woman.
Yeah, she's got a kind of like energy of like a little bit not quite sure what's going on, needs a little bit fragile, but ultimately you know that she would like fight for her kids, which is your great sort of 80s mum character that you want. And also she has like quite a big role to play, bearing in mind she is going out with the head vampire.
I like how Sam kind of like puts it together that Max is the head vampire because he's literally, at the time his dog is chasing his mum, he's reading a comic about hellhounds. So it's like, he must be the head vampire then. Yeah,
the Frog Brothers have actually, they're very good at kind of predicting exactly what's going to happen to him. And then he does. That makes him trust them totally and believe what they say and do whatever they say. Like he goes from being like a cool out of towner who knows more about comics than them, to suddenly kind of they go, "You better be wearing a garlic t-shirt," and he does. Like he literally just does whatever they tell him to do, and like even though they find out that Max is okay with garlic.
How did the Frog Brothers know that there's vampires in Santa Carla? Like even the grandpa, like we find out at the end, like he knows about vampires. Is it like something that everyone in Santa Carla is aware of? Watch out for the vampires.
It must be like one of those things. It's a bit like when you're new to an area, there's like a part that's like the roughest part of town, and you shouldn't go in there after dark, or you shouldn't hang around there. And unless somebody told you, you would just go and hang around there and get yourself in bother. It's a bit like that, isn't it? It's like no one's telling them, but everyone knows. Like Grandpa's reaction to this going on is he just doesn't go there. It doesn't bother him. He just doesn't go. He just doesn't get in the car. Or he gets in the car, but he doesn't go anywhere in it. And it's like that's how he deals with those vampires. The Frog Brothers probably dealt with it by staying inside their comic shop. I don't know. Like that's probably it. It makes perfect sense to me in a way. That's how people in small towns are. They probably don't go around broadcasting what's going on. Yeah. I've just moved to a new village, and to be honest, they could all be. I've moved from the city to a small village. They could all be vampires for all I know.
This is probably the scene that we get the most out of Star, and I'm not a huge fan of her as an actress. I thought she felt a little bit flat, like with her acting and the dialogue and everything. I don't know whether it's her as an actress or the writers that have casted her.
I wonder if she's trying to play it like as a hippie. Being called Star, whether she's playing it a little bit like kind of dreamy and hippie kind of character. I don't know. I can't remember. I've seen her in one other film. It was a Bret Easton Ellis adaptation. I'm trying to think what it was called. And I can't remember if she was similar in that. She was in Solar Warriors as well. The really strange sci-fi film about water. Essentially, that's all it's about. It's just about. So yeah, she never really stands out for me as somebody like, I must watch the new Jamie Gertz film or whatever. But I don't know if she's like that in everything. I can't remember what she was like in Solar Warriors. But yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know. I don't want to blame her. I don't want to say she's a bad actress. She could be underwritten, couldn't she?
Yeah,
as well?
It could have just been a casting problem. Maybe she wasn't right for that role. But I just felt she felt a little bit flat. Even when she was explaining stuff to Michael, I weren't following it.
Yeah, because he's really emoting at points in this film, isn't he? He's like, "What's happening to me?" Like, he's really scared. Whether we want to say again, like puberty, it's a kind of a puberty link, that kind of thing. Like his body is changing, and obviously vampires we've got all that body changing and sexuality and all that kind of stuff. She, like you say, she's just there, isn't she? Which it's but they have the love scene though, which is British saucy synth. Like they loved that in the 80s. They loved like synth like bands from the UK, and it's a weird little. It's as much of a love scene as they can do, and still without it being like a sort of alienating the audience, I guess. But again, it's quite forgettable, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. So Lucy invites Max over to dinner, and Michael leaves when Max arrives, but not before Max requests to be invited in.
Yeah, and that's if you have ever watched one vampire film.
Yeah,
you instantly know that. Yeah, it gives it away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a cleverer way of doing that, but maybe if I watched it when I watched it the first time, I didn't get that because I hadn't watched a lot of vampire films. I didn't know a lot of it. So maybe the audience they're aiming for are people who haven't seen them. They're more likely to tune in for Kiefer Sutherland or Jason Patric or someone rather than. I'm
sure this is probably where I learnt that lore about vampires.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think we've missed the part, haven't we, where we said about where she says they clearly normally have a good relationship with her mum, don't they? She's like, aren't we friends anymore? And then then Max comes over and needs that inviting in. Again, there might be a little bit of something there where they're really protective of their mum. There's just like really love her mum, really love her, and have a really good relationship with her. So that might tie into the fact that he wants him to be a vampire. Right. Yeah. But if you say if you didn't know that he needed inviting in.
Yeah. Sam brought the Frog Brothers over for dinner.
Perfect. Yeah.
and they attempt to expose him. However, none of their plans work, and then they conclude that Max is not the head vampire. David tries to provoke Michael into killing, but he repeatedly refuses. Star reveals that she and Laddie, the youngest of the gang, are also still partly human, and David intended for Michael to be Star's first kill, sealing her fate as a vampire.
I was going to say that I was going to mention it at some point with Edgar and Alan. Got to be like the recent Eurovision po. Do you know that? Get those Eurovision listeners on the podcast. But yeah, it's Laddie doesn't get to say or do very much. He's there. He's another one. He's just there, isn't he?
I'm not sure what his point in the movie is. I
can't remember. What's the little boy called in Peter Pan? Is it Jonathan? The little tiny. He just pulls the little teddy bear along all the time. I think that's his. I think that's his part, really.
I mean, you could have taken Laddie out of this film and it would have remained the exact same film.
Yeah, you get the It's a Wonderful Life moment at the end where he runs down the stairs and he's like, "Star, star!"
Yeah.
We've not had the massacre yet at the beach party.
Yeah, I think that was that last bit there when David tries to provoke Michael into killing, but he refuses.
Oh yeah, you must feed, and like because it's like the one thing that's kind of the classic American values, wholesomeness, family values, was the beach party, the 50s beach party films, the Frankie Avalon ones that people used to go to. And it's a bit like that, except there's a massive massacre at the end of it where everybody gets like absolutely munched to death. Which I think is really, really subversive and quite shocking. That's a really shocking... And one of the most shocking scenes, definitely top 3 shocking scenes in the film, I think. What do you think? Is that the most shocking, or would you say we've not had that yet?
I don't know. I mean, I'd say maybe in the next scene where they all go to the cave to try and kill the vampires.
Oh yeah.
That can be a bit of a shocking scene, that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that beach scene definitely is. Like I said earlier, that's the first time that you see them in makeup with their vampire faces. That's a very kind of 80s thing in itself as well for vampires. Obviously, it reminded me a lot of Fright Night, and as well as From Dusk Till Dawn. They all seem to have the same similar makeup.
Yeah, Buffy is some Buffy episodes where like,
oh yeah, I'm Buffy, yeah.
Because I know they use like vamp out for the first time in this. Like Angel used to vamp out all the time, and like and you'd sometimes he'd half vamp out and just show you a bit of his potential for danger, and then Buffy'd be like, "Come on, chill out, Angel." That's exact quote. Because at this point, like. It's weird, actually, because they all seem to be able to control it so well, but I suppose they've had hundreds of years to be able to control going full-on feral and then bringing it in and reining it in. Because, like, Star and Michael are both half-blood prince and princesses at the moment, aren't they? And, like, then it's literally like there is nothing that's stopping these people. That's what I think is really funny. Like the stakes are quite high. Stakes. The stakes are quite high because, like, we literally go, only these useless young teenage boys can come to the rescue, and that's when it goes like proper Goonies.
Yeah. You do get that curveball when everything's pointing at Max to be the head vampire, and obviously when they're at dinner, the Frog Brothers are like. What do they say? It's Parmesan cheese, but it's actually just a mountain of garlic.
Garlic, yeah, and he's like, "Oh man, I can't imagine anything worse."
Yeah,
I'm not a massive fan of garlic. I will eat some things with garlic, but yeah, I would be having the same reaction as Max. Yeah. Is it where he calls it El Vampiro Nosferatu?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good. He is so good.
So, Michael leads Sam and the Frog Brothers to the gang's lair during the day when they are asleep. They impale one of the vampires, Marco, with a wooden stake, awakening the others. The boys narrowly escape, rescuing Star and Laddie. Realising the gang will come after them that night, the teens arm themselves with holy water-filled squirt guns, bow and arrows with stakes, and lots of garlic, and then barricade themselves in the house.
You see lots of, when they're going, when they're kind of, you've got the bats and all of that, and then you've got the faces of them, like at rest, vampires at rest. I started thinking, I had a bit of a deep dive into the makeup effects. I was really interested in what other things this guy had done, and like, I think he's called Brent Bure or Brent some Brent Bone. My handwriting's appalling, but he did like the facial prosthetics for like Men in Black and Hellboy, and also Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions. And like I was like, okay, just So it's got that kind of. Because I was thinking it's got that kind of S&M-y feel to it. This is the guy that you go to when you want that kind of kind of look. It's like a very specific look.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was maybe Tom Savini.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, Brent Baker. That's how terrible my handwriting is. But yeah. I wrote Baker and Barker next to each other. That's why I confused myself. But he also did the makeup on Attack the Block, which is I still haven't seen. But I want to.
Yeah, this is the bit that kind of reminds me of Home Alone, where they're preparing for a war.
Plan B, which is fucking go for it.
But it's kind of like a mixture, actually, of like Stranger Things and Home Alone. Because they're on their little push bikes and they're cycling off, getting all their stuff, busting into the church and filling up water bottles of holy water and
yeah, and I guess like I suppose with that whole that's really funny. Like, cheers, thank you.
They're in the middle of like a baptism.
Yeah,
and they're just there at the back like bloop 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 bloop.
Yeah. Being on the bikes is a really like I think something that Spielberg just was like brought into the zeitgeist, and if you want to have something from the 80s, you put a kid and his friends or a kid and her friends on a bike, and like Stranger Things obviously like you say have took that route as well, haven't they? But that's what kids would do though. They would go out with their friends and play on the bikes and stuff, not without me going, oh, life isn't like that anymore and this is what it used to be like and all. But I think kids used to get on their bikes more in the 80s and go out and come back when it was dark.
Oh,
so
yes.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
When night falls, David's gang attacks. The Frog Brothers attack one of the vampires by splashing him with garlic-filled holy water from the bath. And then Nanook, the dog, comes and jumps and pushes him in.
Yeah, good boy.
That's a good scene. I like that scene, especially when he pops back up out of the bath and he's all kind of like half melted.
Yeah, I was just like, Nanook, you legend.
Yeah,
because the Frog Brothers have just lost it at that point. Like they've just
yeah, that's the bit I was on about. Like the Frog Brothers are so like
ineffectual.
Yeah. They're like, we are the vampire slayers, and then it actually comes to them slaying a vampire and they're just screaming like little kids. And then the dog comes in and saves the day.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, it's great. And that's Marco, isn't it? That's gone. And I believe, is he called Marco?
No, Marco's the
one
that gets killed in the cave when they're sleeping.
Oh, okay. Right. So he's going down the list because he says like Marco's gone. This was, and I lost track. I know there's people out there who probably know every single character name, but no. Because he's going down the list of everyone, and then he's like, "We need to terminate her. Like terminate Star and terminate the little boy." That's so funny. He's just like, I can't. Yeah, we just need to get rid of all of them as quick as we can.
So Sam takes out another one of the vampires by staking him through the heart using a bow and arrow and pinning him against a record player.
Yes.
And then he shouts out, "Death by stereo."
Death by stereo, classic. it is before that as well. When the one that's in the bath, you've got the bloody sinks and bloody pipes exploding. What is it? What is it about films with blood and pipes and toilets and stuff? Is it because that's where we wash? That's where we go to the toilet. We're really vulnerable because it is fucking creepy, isn't it? It's really creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I don't like that. I don't like the idea of all blood coming out of my toilet. I don't know, but it's just not for me. What did you think of that bit, or did that just kind of pass you by? Were you more into the stereo one?
I did, yeah. Well, I love that Death by Stereo. That got me. That did. But
it's a good pre-Arnie tagline as well, isn't it? It's like,
especially with a bow and arrow. That was very Rambo. That bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That bit with the pipes exploding and stuff. how exactly did that happen? Because he's in the bath. Did he just kind of explode down the pipe? And
Is it like one of those things, where you hear about these serial killers that like put people in the bath and then dissolve them?
Yeah.
But then I'm pretty sure that wouldn't lead to it exploding, would it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be catching a lot more of these serial killers as the plumbers were going, especially when they live in apartments and all their neighbours' plumbing goes up the wall. So yeah, no, I honestly don't know. I think because it's a movie. Because it's fun. It's a bit like why do cars just automatically explode? They just do. But yeah, it's they say like we killed the one who looks like Twisted Sister. I thought that was a really good line. Like for the like younger viewers of that now, I'm not sure everybody knows. So if they like Google D. Snyder and see what he looks like, then they're not a million miles away. Like I've seen them Twisted Sister in concert and years ago, and they were still old then. They were like maybe in the 50s or 60s, and like they still wear the full-on curly hair, poodle perm, crazy makeup stuff. So like when he said that really, like, to use wrestling terminology, that popped me. That I thought that was really funny. Yeah, and it's just like with a little kid, the attack of Eddie Munster. So good. The attack of... I'm just reading lines from the film, but like, laddie is a vamp. That's so good. He is creepy. I mean, we've maybe not had enough little children as vampires in films, because that is horrendous. Did not like that.
Yeah, kids in horror movie freaks me out.
Yeah. He's got a little sort of... Well, I suppose even like the little kid from like The Omen, he can be creepy in just like a school uniform.
I think it's Pet Sematary that did it for me.
Right, I've not seen Pet Sematary. No.
Oh.
Just the idea of pets and cemeteries makes me sad. So, I don't know. I know that I love the Ramones, and I know they did the theme song for Pet Sematary, so I should watch it. I should watch it, really. Yeah.
So
where are we?
Michael and David, they're having a showdown. Oh, yeah. They're having a fight. They're having a flying fight, aren't they? They're like up
face
on
off
the ceiling. Yeah,
they're like like it's not a massive fight, which I think is good. I think, like I said to you before, I'm sure I said it in another episode. Like, we don't need to have a half an hour fight between the two main baddies. Like, they've achieved everything they need to achieve in this fight.
So David gets impaled on some antlers, but there's no change in Michael, Star or Laddie, forcing the group to conclude that they have still not accounted for the master vampire. Yeah.
Dun dun dun. Who could it be? Richard Gilmore. No.
I understand what you're saying, where it doesn't need to be a half-hour scene, but this whole scene where they're in the house fighting the vampires could have been done with a little bit longer.
Maybe David, definitely. Maybe David could have had another 5 minutes of a fight.
Yeah.
Because he's such a badass. Yeah. To go out so quickly is a bit...
It's not so much that I felt it was a bit rushed and quick. It was more for the fact that the vampires seem to be killed off a little too easily.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I get that.
I mean, one of them
are as good as they said. Yeah.
I mean, one of them got killed by a dog. So.
True, dogs are awesome, but also, maybe the Frog Brothers are as good as
they really are vampire slayers.
Yeah. They're the best. When you pay for the best, obviously didn't get paid, but you call the best, you get the best.
They joked about that, didn't they? Right at the end, didn't the Frog Brothers? I think it was Corey Feldman said, so how much are we going to charge them?
Yes, that must be why it was in my head. Yeah, true. The blood-sucking Brady Bunch. Yeah.
So Lucy and Max return home from their date. Max approaches the deceased David and appears to be upset by his death. It's then revealed that Max is the head vampire, and that David and the gang were Max's kind of children. He says something along the lines of "they're my children," kind of thing. And
maybe he sort of turned them all. Maybe he Not just rented them videos, but turned them into vampires.
Yeah. Max wanted David to make Michael and Sam a part of the family so that Lucy would agree to being with Max, knowing what he is. Max wanted Lucy because his boys were in need of a mother.
Yeah, and this is that's where they say the blood-sucking Brady Bunch line, isn't it? That's so good. Everything Corey Haim says is almost like a pop culture reference, but they're really good. It really works. This is a good bit. It does kind of make sense in a way. It's only because of Edward Herrmann and Dianne Wiest being so good as actors, they maybe add a bit more to that than is there on the page. Because they've literally been on one date.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't want to. We don't need to necessarily see them building that relationship for 30 minutes, do we? We'll just take it. We'll just take that. That's what means. That's what makes these films so good. Is they don't have a lot of fat in them. They're not like 2 hours 40 minutes. They're probably thinking about the amount of film they would use up as well. I mean, this is like an hour and 37. So like it's meticulous in terms of the plot and the references and everything's in there that needs to be in there. Like you say, maybe that end scene's a little bit on the short side for various reasons. That's debatable, isn't it? 97 minutes is pretty perfect, really.
There is just a couple of things I'm not 100% on. I might be nitpicking here a little bit, but Max explains that if a vampire is invited in, it renders them powerless, which is why he was able to eat the garlic bread and have a reflection and stuff. Like I said, I don't know much about vampires, but I'm fairly sure that's not a thing, is it? Has that ever been? If you're invited into somewhere, you then can't kill that vampire by the traditional ways?
No, I think that's just extrapolating the idea of having to be invited in, because I think that usually it would just mean that you are then at their mercy. I don't think there's anything about the powers becoming this, that and the other, but it's quite clever in a way that they've just kind of tweaked it a little bit. Again, it needs to be a little bit different. You've got to kind of keep subverting tropes a little bit.
Does that only apply to head vampires then? Because obviously all the other vampires went in the house.
Yeah. Nobody invited them in, did they?
David and the rest of the gang just kind of broke into the house.
I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question, but I don't know. I thought all vampires needed to be invited in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Unless maybe because Max
Vampire
was
experts.
invited in and he's the head, so then anyone can. I don't know. Yeah.
Let us know. Are any vampires listening? Let us know.
If there's any vampire experts out there, please fill us in.
All vampires. I think actual vampires should let us know. They would know best.
Yeah, we don't discriminate. Anyone.
Get those listening figures up. A few vampires.
So, right, we're coming to the end now. So, as Max pulls Lucy to him, preparing to transform her, Grandpa crashes his truck through the wall of the house, impaling Max on a wooden fence post and causing him to explode. Michael, Star and Laddie return to their normal self. When Lucy, Michael and Sam go to see if Grandpa is alright, he replies, "There's one thing about living in Santa Carla I could never stomach. All the damn vampires."
Yeah. That's great. That's perfect.
Roll credits.
That's perfect. And then it's literally like, people are strange. They are.
Yeah.
Even the non-vampires are strange. Yeah, love it. And house destruction is a good 80s end to a film as well.
Yeah.
Just the whole houses falling down. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are we rating this film? I've got.
It's in the books. It's in the books.
Do you want to go first?
Ooh, no, I don't. You tell me.
Okay.
And then I'll just say the same. No.
I've kind of broken the mold here. I've gone for a half point on this one. I was going to do 8 out of 10, but I've actually dropped it down to a 7.5 out of 10.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
I have put 7 or 8 out of 10.
So you're right there with me then.
Yeah, 17 years ago I would have probably given it 8 when I last watched it. And then again, I wasn't massively younger then, but it was just... I think I was just starting my horror journey then. Now, the script is better than I remember it being, which would push me towards an 8. But I'd probably do, if we're doing half marks, I'll do 7.5 too. But I think I will go, just because of the sheer iconic nature of the film. I'm going 8 out of 10, and it was a better script than I remember, funnier than I remember. And how many teen horror comedies from the 80s, are this good or exist? So yeah, I'm going 8.
I've rated it as oiled up saxophone players.
Yes, Santon Capello's legend. And I will say I've sent you the little video I've got of him last year playing Tequila on his saxophone.
Tequila.
He's such a lovely man. Bumped into him. He's just friendly and smiley to everyone. He just loves coming to England and playing his saxophone. Yes. So I guess I give one more slightly oiled up saxophonist out of 10 than you. It's unusual.
I know, yeah. So I've gone 7.5 oiled up saxophone players. Yeah, I mean, I do love this movie. I just, I think only because I'm nitpicking a little bit, maybe with the lures behind vampires, and they seemed a bit too easy to kill off. It all happened quite quick at the end, and they just killed them off a little bit too easy. And also Star, I didn't like her character, so that knocked it down a little bit for me. Again,
so she's she wouldn't give her 5 stars. Oh jeez, that was bad.
Yeah, I did like the movie though. It's one of my favourites. I mean, I'm wearing a Lost Boys t-shirt right now, so I obviously really like it. And I do like that they took a different approach to typical vampire movies. And
it's a nice little companion to, in a strange way to the last week's film, whereas that was a completely different look at home invasion, I guess, and things like that. And this is a kind of completely different look at vampires that both capture their times perfectly. Yeah, like this, managed to capture their times, and I think they would still be rewatchable and quite timeless. If something can capture its time and be timeless, then the last 2 films we've watched are good examples of that.
And this is probably one of the only horror comedy vampire films out there, really. I can't think of any other vampire film that includes bits of comedy. I'm sure there are some,
but not as massively successful as this. I'm sure there's obviously straight out funny ones, like the Dead and Loving It, Leslie Nielsen spoof one, but this is your kind of. It's also cool as well, and it's got like a cool edge to it, and it's like teens will like this.
Yeah. Did you want to head into some trivia? I've got quite a bit, so I'll try and smash through it.
Yeah, I've only got 1 or 2 little bits. So yeah, let's go for it. Let's be trivial.
Trivia. Oh yeah!
So yeah, well, we've already spoken about this when you Santa Cruz, where Santa Carla was taking place, was plagued as the murder capital of the world. Series of brutal murders in the 70s. John Fraser, Herbert Mullin, and Edmund Kemper. Yeah, 28 murders over a 30-month period.
Blimey.
Yeah, that's a lot. the new location of the Atlantis Fantasy World comic book store, which was featured in the film, is owned by Joe Ferrara II, who still carries the #1 issue of Vampires Everywhere that Sam reads in the film.
Nice.
The comic was created only for the film, and its opening page is signed by all of the cast members from the movie. The owner, Joe Ferrara, allows any shopper to hold it and take a photo of it free of charge.
Oh, what a legend. And that's it's like Creepshow, really, isn't it? Like, I love that comic book aesthetic and references to comic books, especially ones that are just made up for the films. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I like that.
This one's really funny. Can you guess how many times they say the name Michael throughout the film?
Wow.
You're going to be shocked.
Is it over 100?
Yeah.
Go on then.
It's 118 times they say Michael in the film.
Michael, that's how it must be a very memorable and repetitively used, because I always forget characters' names, and I'm like, yeah, Michael did this and Michael did that. So, yeah.
Michael.
Yeah. It's like a Blair Witch Project. I wonder how many times they say Josh. Yeah. That's all I remember. That's all I remember from the film. Josh.
So this was Corey Haim and Corey Feldman's first film together, which marked the start of a popular 1980s trend, the two Coreys, in which Feldman and Haim starred together in a number of teenage films. Yeah,
License to Drive being one of them. Got from my local video shop. Yeah, Corey Feldman, he was like getting into his music and like good friends with Michael Jackson. And I remember him saying in a magazine I read once, I think it was like Smash Hits or Big or something, TV hits, that he had a song that was so good. He played it for Michael Jackson. It was so good. Michael Jackson wanted to take it to the head of the record company because it was going to be a smash hit. But Corey Feldman was like, no, I don't want to abuse our friendship. I don't want to, I don't want to kind of ruin our friendship. I don't want you to think I'm just out for what I can get. So I think he may have released it about 20, 30 years later. But yeah, I know he's a musician-ish. Debatable. But he's having fun, that's the main thing. But I just thought it was really funny. He's just like, I've got the world's greatest song, but I respect you too much to to release it. Or to let you go, to let it be a hit.
So every year at the landmark Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in Santa Cruz, California, this film is screened as a part of the park's free summer movie series. Beachgoers may bring outdoor furniture and supplies to watch after sunset. Many features of the town shown can still be recognised, most notably the rides and games of the boardwalk itself.
That'll be fun to go to. Yeah. Like going off, I can't think where it is, off the coast of New York or whatever it is where Jaws is, watching Jaws whilst sat in a rubber ring. I've seen people do that, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, that would be great.
In the documentary Blood-Sucking Cinema from 2007, Corey Haim said that all the blood had glitter in it to give it a shimmering effect, and it was slimier than other fake blood.
Somewhere a young Stephanie Meyer takes notes.
I was going to say that actually, when Marco is killed, when they go into the cave and they stab Marco, that did not look like blood at all. That was more like a goopy kind of Vaseline coloured stuff.
Well, when we get into Hammer films and the quality of blood, I can't wait for you to see the colour of Hammer blood. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
B&Q or Home Base, definitely.
So the last one I've got is in Max's video store. You can see a single copy of The Goonies from 1985, which also starred Corey Feldman.
Amazing. Oh, that's nice. All these little references. Okay, I've got a couple.
Go on then.
Ones that they're not. I've stayed away from. These are more things that I find interesting, so it might not be necessarily trivia. Okay, so super fast. I'm going to go through. Corey Haim was in 2 films with the title Demolition. There's Demolition High and I think Demolition College, which were like a kid version of Die Hard or a teenager version of Die Hard. They're very, very low budget, almost trauma level, but I could sit through them. I could watch them. He has got, and I think he was struggling at the time, but yeah, he plays like a teenage college student who comes up against terrorists for some reason. It's worth a watch. Just if you like trash films that are a bit of interest. Head Vampire Max. I was wondering, named after Max Schreck from Nosferatu, possibly. If so, then that's awesome. Another little inside horror reference, which I'd imagine is deliberate. And I think, that was it. There was one last thing. Amazon describes this film, describes the vampires or Kiefer Sutherland's gang as no-mark punks.
No-mark punks?
And I was like, who calls somebody a no-mark? That's a very, like a Scouser, like, Mark. But like a no-mark punks who turn out to be vampires. And I read that and I was like, that is such a strange, very British, an odd definition for this film. But yeah, just thought I'd mention that. Check that one out. Check that one out on Amazon.
Oh, wow. Cool. So, I told you earlier on today, I completely forgot to do a game for today's episode.
I can't lose.
I quickly made one. And I really wanted to do a vampire game. So, I've tried my best to do a vampire game. So, basically, this is... and I said, you're going to struggle with this because I would imagine I wouldn't have got any. So...
Great.
This is the vampire movie release date game. I'm going to list off a load of vampire films and you got to tell me which year they were released in.
Okay, are we doing like when they were released in America or the UK?
Ooh, good question. I don't know.
I live in the UK, but no, I can see. I imagine that
I've taken this from Google, so whatever Google marks
this will be America, so I'm going to go for America. Okay, what I think it is. Not that it will make any difference, but yeah.
So,
okay, hit me.
Your first vampire film is Fright Night, the original Fright Night.
Right. 1984.
Oh, very close. It was
85.
85, yeah.
Damn. This is going to be a theme.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay. 1998.
Oh, no, a bit earlier than that.
Really?
Yeah, 96.
Oh, I was going to go 97 initially, but yeah.
I always thought that was an 80s film. I was quite surprised when I read the back of the box and realised it was 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was the tail end of VHS because I had it on VHS, but it wasn't... and it might have been the tail end of VHS where I had it on VHS and then rebought it on DVD when DVDs were a thing. Oh, when DVDs started. Yeah.
Started being a thing.
Started being a thing, yeah.
30 Days of Night.
Okay, 2001.
No.
Damn, I'm saying these with authority as well. But no, what is it? 2007. 7, oh man.
Yeah. You might know this one. Nosferatu.
Oh, 1933?
Ooh, no, you're well off.
Oh, I've got mixed up. I should know this. Cut this out. 1918?
No, 1922.
1922. Oh man, I'm terrible with numbers.
I said it was going to be hard.
I really want to do a big show on Nosferatu, and it's one of my favourite films. But yeah, I'm really bad with numbers, so I'll have to write that down.
The next film is just called Vampires, which is a John Carpenter film.
Okay, John Carpenter's Vampires. 97.
Oh, close again. 98.
98? Damn, I was going to say 98. But I didn't, so... Yeah. Man. I'm close. I'm not a million miles away. My favourite out of all of those films is the one I got the furthest away.
What about Van Helsing?
Oh, okay. I saw that in the cinema. That was the Hugh Jackman one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's bad. 2002.
Oof. No, 2004.
Oh, damn it.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
92.
Yeah, you got one.
Yes.
92.
Oh man, I was thinking 94 and I said 92.
Right, last one.
Okay.
And this is the one that I thought you might get because this is Christopher Lee's Dracula. It's also known as Horror of Dracula. The original.
In America, yeah. Can I just sneak over to my DVD collection? It's right there, I can see it. 60, I know it's in the 60s. 65?
No.
What was it?
You seem quite sure that it was in the 60s.
Was it 1959? Was it 1959?
1958.
1958. Damn. Yeah. Oh man. Again, the ones I know the most about in terms of films, I could not tell you when they came out.
Yeah. Oh well, you got one.
You got one. That's good.
1 out of 8.
1 out of 8. That's not bad. That's an 8th. If my maths is correct.
Oh no, that was 6. Sorry, 1 out of 6.
Oh.
Even better.
Oh yeah. That sounds much better. All right, man. That's good.
Cool.
What's next? What's next on the chopping block?
What are we doing? I believe our next episode is Alien.
Ooh.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I've not seen that in a while, so I'm looking forward to that one.
No, I haven't. I think I've been saturated by all the sequels, so it'd be nice to see that one. Yeah, definitely. And hopefully we'll have some... there's lots of people kind of reaching out over different media, so we'll be able to do some shout-outs for people as well at some next episode. That'd be good.
Absolutely.
That'd be good.
I'm not sure if we said it on this episode at the moment, but this was a poll pick, which we do every month at the end of the month. This month's was obviously Vampires, where the Lost Boys won. So next month, the poll will be up next week on next week's episode, and that will be camping horrors. So you'll have the choice of Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, or The Burning.
Camping horrors.
Camping horrors.
I'll get my marshmallows.
Yeah, and that is it. That's all we have time for.
Stay scary, as they say. I don't know who says that, but yeah.
If you've liked today's episode, be sure to go and like us on Facebook. That's where we announce what we do next, and each month we do a themed poll pick. And if you want to vote for what you want us to watch, you can do that by going on Facebook or YouTube. They both have poll picks, and you can vote on there. We'd like to hear from you, so please feel free to give us a comment or send us a message, or you could email us at allthingshorror666@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Go to some scary movie.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?